Hey, it's Wednesday, it's noon hour, so this must be Inspyrd Talks. Welcome, thank you for joining us. We do this live every Wednesday at noon where I interview a coach. And I do that because I want you to understand what it's like to be a coach. And I'm really excited to let you know what it's like to be a life coach, and especially if your specialty is NLP. And I always like to ask the question, what if the challenges you faced weren't a sign of weakness? What if they were really a doorway into healing and growth? And as you sit and you ponder that question, I'm going to introduce our guest today. And I'm so excited today. This woman is a personal friend. She's a subject matter expert on so many things. We consult to her regularly. Her name is Tara Guzzo. And Tara Guzzo is a master NLP coach. She's the creator of the Wise Visibility and Rise method, two powerful frameworks that guide high-achieving women to break free from unseen patterns of self-doubt, perfectionism, and the pressure to constantly prove their worth and step into soul-led success on their own terms. She has over 15 years of experience in holistic healing and a background in clinical healthcare. Tara weaves together neuroscience, subconscious reprogramming, and identity alchemy to help women return to the truth of who they are. Her work supports them in reclaiming their voice, embodying their leadership, and creating the emotional, creative, and financial freedom their soul has been calling for. Welcome, Tara.
Hi, Allen. Thank you so much for having me today. And before we start, if I could, I just want to express my gratitude. I feel so grateful to have met you and your amazing wife, Tara, just about 5 years ago now. And you've both been important mentors to me and coaches, and I've learned so much, and it's been such a gift. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And it is interesting when you meet some people, right? Some people, the contact happens and then they go their own ways and there's no more contact. And our life, and we'll talk about this more, seems to intersect in crazy places like that contact you had in Mexico with a person from my previous life. So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, some things are just meant to be. Cool. Yeah. But to start this, we are always interested in somebody's backstory. You know, how did they get to this point, right? So give us a bit about your backstory, how you got into holistic healing, and then what sort of propelled you into becoming this more psycho-emotional healer, if you will.
Yeah, sure thing. I feel like there's so many places that we could start with this, and so far we could go back. But essentially what initially brought me to healthcare was my own health crisis, like so many people. And I was only really aware of the conventional route at that time. So I went through the drugs and the surgery, and I wasn't able to fully overcome the issues. And I was scratching my head like, okay, there has to be something else. And I should say too that I had always had this motivation to become a doctor since I was a child. I was really intent on helping people. I feel like I was born with that, like, just desire to help and to heal. So for me, that was quite a struggle. I'm like, hang on a second, this, system is supposed to support me. This is like the direction that I'm going. I was in university at the time. So it kind of turned into not only like a health crisis, but a little quarter life crisis for me too. Because I thought I was on this certain path. Now what am I going to do? So thankfully, at that time, I found naturopathic medicine. And when I read the principles of naturopathic medicine, I was like, wow, I can still do that helping work in the healthcare field. And this makes sense to me. And at that time, I was also studying philosophy. That was my major. I almost had like a double major in science. So I had really both worlds. So that's what brought me into healthcare. So I've been a naturopathic doctor for the last 16 years, and I was an acupuncturist for 11. And really the thing that had always fascinated me about health was the psychology part, the mental, emotional, spiritual pieces, like what drove people's choices and behaviors, why they would get stuck, why did some people heal and others wouldn't in similar circumstances. So that's always been the piece that's interested me the absolute most. And funny story, a few years ago, I found a little art project from, I think it was like grade 6 or 7. We were asked to draw a timeline of our lives.
Wow.
Yeah. And so funny enough, like I had all these cool little things. And then just before I turned 30, I was going to open a center for psychological studies. Like who says that when they're in grade 6 or 7? But again,
Nobody.
it must have been like such an interest for me from such an early age. So for me, the gift of coaching has really been answering some of those pieces about why people make the choices they do the behaviors that they do, why they get stuck, and sort of open up my world to seeing what was going on beneath the surface, being able to hear what people were saying and really hear what they were saying. What was the meaning behind it? Where was that motivation coming from? And then to be better and improve my skills at supporting behavioral change, improving my communication, supporting people's motivation. So coaching has given me such a great gift of that.
Wow. There's so much there to grab, but as in your holistic naturopathic practice and then the transition into more coaching, I'm always fascinated, my position on allopathic medicine being so physical, Newtonian cause and effect. And I'm so far down the rabbit hole, Tara, that I keep calling you Tara, but you say Tara. I keep going down the rabbit hole with people like Gabor Mate, where I just say, look, the first thing I'm going to ask when anybody presents any symptomology at this point now, and I'm not a doctor, that is, I wonder what happened to them. What psychological wound led them to this behavior, whether it's chronic pain, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, IBS, migraine, headaches. What was the event where the best solution they could derive was to manifest some physical symptomology? And I've approached it like that. And you, with your background in holistic healing and now understanding the power of the unconscious mind and the belief structure, that's got to be a phenomenal gift when you're one-on-one with a client.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's pretty amazing. And, working in the coaching space with people now, I find like the coaching space really gives me that opportunity to dive deeper on those subjects and really follow those threads to understand more of like what's going on under the surface. How did this come to be? Why is this perpetuating? And even like for myself, my own like personal growth in this arena has been incredible. And as well as supporting people around me, I think that when you can sort of thrive and rise, then others around you tend to start becoming the best version of themselves as well.
Isn't that powerful? That the what we carry actually impacts the people around us.
Oh, yeah.
You studied Milton Erickson with me, and Milton Erickson said the single biggest correlate to the client's healing is the clinician's belief the client can heal.
Yeah.
Right? That the innate ability. Joe Dispenza is in that camp. So many people are in that camp. And you and I have talked pretty extensively about epigenetics, how our thoughts, our feelings, and our surroundings impact our genetic expression. So, if you're in the presence of a healer, whether it's a doctor or a coach, whomever, I see coaches as healers. I experience them as healers.
Yeah.
They have to demonstrate it. You're absolutely right. They have to be walking the talk.
It's true. And just to add to your point, I've done some training with the Heart Math Institute, and it's very interesting. I find it so congruent with coaching. It's just yet another skill set that can come to bear. And I had a program in my naturopathic practice one-on-one for years using those skills and teaching those skills. And it was really incredible because we learned about heart-brain coherence, connection between the heart and the brain, and how our emotional state influences that, and that they have devices that have been able to measure our influence of the electromagnetic field of our heart and its influence on others around us. So very truly, the state that we're in, the thoughts that we're thinking, our beliefs do have a real world impact on people around us. So I think it really brings to bear how important it is to create change if there are challenges that you're currently experiencing and there's something different that you'd like in your life.
Yeah, that's absolutely profound. I'm trying to remember the author's name. She wrote The Power of Eight, where you get 8 people meditating to somebody else's benefit.
Lynn McTaggart.
Lynn McTaggart, you're absolutely right. And when I was overcoming what was diagnosed as osteoarthritis, because I didn't like the diagnosis nor the prognosis, that they were going to replace my knee this year. And of course, they're not going to, because it's healed. But one of the big steps in that healing was doing the Power of 8. I held the Power of 8 meditation group every morning at 6:30. I did it for 365 days.
Wow.
Every morning, except Saturday and Sunday, though. But every weekday morning, I got together with, sometimes there were as many as 24 people online. And I used Choco Ray music, as Lynn McTaggart does. And we did Joe Dispenza type breathing while we did the meditation to somebody else's health. On the 4th day, Tara, the pain in my knee was gone. I came down the stairs, down the middle of the stairs. All before that, I'd always held onto the railing. I came down, I got to the bottom of the stairs. I spun around, looked up, and I went, oh my God. It was morning of day 4, and it was already having an impact. So, and a lot of people would say this is woo-woo, but I don't care. I just don't care anymore. It works. And if it's placebo, I take it. I'll take it all day long, but I think it's not placebo. I think it's physical manifestation. And I'm 70 years old. I've gone to the doctor with all sorts of issues. They've never, ever, ever asked me what psycho-emotional things I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
That may be the cause of my symptomology. They always want to deal with the symptom, either using a hammer or medicine or a knife, right? They don't want to deal with my psycho-emotional bullshit. And I know I have lots, and I suspect others do too.
Well, and I think it's important to point out too, and I share this with my coaching clients or my patients, like, make sure you're going to the right place to get what you're expecting to receive. You wouldn't go to a mechanic and order a birthday cake. They don't offer that. So, there's certain solutions that you're going to get in certain places and certain that you can't expect. So I think everyone is doing their best, no matter what field that they work in. It's just a matter of like, what are they able to offer you in that context?
100%. And so you mentioned clients a couple of times. Who are your ideal clients? What kind of people come to you today?
Thank you for asking. So primarily who I work with tend to be women that are very driven, successful, high achieving. They've had a lot of success in their lives. They often are either coaches, leaders in some way, professionals, entrepreneurs for sure. So I've worked with, other healthcare providers as well, realtors, executive senior managers. So those types of roles. So oftentimes they're looking successful on the outside, but they're not necessarily feeling that success on like a soul level. They're not having true fulfillment from it. And they might be feeling anxious, disconnected, exhausted, and feeling like it's never quite good enough. And so depending on what they're seeking in terms of change, then I have a couple different ways that I help them. But that's primarily who I work with.
And describe your methodology. How do you engage with them? What do you do with them?
Yeah. So there's a couple different pathways. So maybe it's easiest if I speak about that. So I have a program called the RISE method. And with that in particular, those are usually, it's best for women who are dealing with like the burnout, self-doubt, imposter syndrome. They're the ones who are, again, they're going for more and more credentials all the time, doesn't feel like quite enough. They're having that sense of like disconnection. And that's a 12-week one-on-one breakthrough coaching program. So that is more in depth. So if women are seeking to really build a solid foundation of self-trust so that they can feel more calm, more confident, and feel like they've taken their power back, they're making new decisions in their lives. And then that success is like sinking down into the soul level where they really feel it, like they're truly doing it for themselves. So that's one of the ways that I work with clients. And then the second way is a little bit of a newer evolution, a newer offering. So it's called Wise Visibility. And this is something that came from my own challenges. And maybe we can talk about that later. But these clients are often, again, in that same category of high achieving women, but they're looking to find more ease with specific behaviors around visibility. So maybe they're going from, audio podcasting, and they want to have more visibility on video. Maybe they want to be doing more speaking engagements. Maybe they want to interview for that new role for the promotion. They want to be leading meetings with more ease. So those types of things where it's like this specific behavior. So in that vein of things, how I'm supporting women is essentially we're doing a few things where we're expanding their identity. Because if you're someone who tells yourself like, I'm the behind the scenes person, or, I'm just going to keep playing small, but you really want to be bigger, then it's not going to work out too well. No. There's always going to be this like push kind of pull. You're trying to like move forward, but not being successful. You're crashing afterwards.
It's like your conscious mind, their conscious minds want to go forward in their unconscious patterns. So they have this huge conflict.
Yeah. So we have to expand the identity piece, then definitely working on the beliefs, like you're saying. So the unconscious beliefs that are there, like buried beneath the surface, that are the ones that are kind of slingshotting you back. And then you're not able to move forward in the way that you want to. And then the third thing that is really fun and I think super cool and different than maybe a lot of other things out there where the conventional advice is like, just push through. And I think that can be helpful sometimes. Like, yes, we need courage. We need to do new things and step out into the world in new ways. However, if our fear is way too big, then we risk, just slipping away and hiding, which is something that I did. But if you're able to really embody that, so I do embodied rehearsal as part of that wise visibility process, the results have been really amazing. So it's been something that I developed this process using NLP techniques sequenced together. I feel like I learned how to do that from you and Tara. You do it so brilliantly. And then I tested it out one-on-one with clients, and the results have been amazing. So now I'm moving it into like a founders member group program that I'll be launching soon. Yeah.
That's brilliant. So if you would, you know that my belief is that our mess is our message, is how we say it cutely. But what I really mean is life experience counts, right? In terms when I step in front of a police group or a firefighters or EMS or military, because I wore a uniform for a decade, because I was in Iraq, it gives me some street creds. And because I had screaming nightmares and I know what being traumatized is like, it gives me some street creds. So you have actually experienced the very issues you help me address now. And when I met you, you had this beautiful yellow coat that you had in your ads, and you had started into a TV show type venue. Would you be willing to share some of the, prior to this emergence, who were you?
Yeah. Let's talk about that. So I'll share the story about how that all came to be. I think it'll answer your question and a little bit more, but basically I felt called when the world kind of shut down in 2020. I saw people suffering. I was told for a period of time I couldn't go to work, not even work remotely. Yeah. And I felt like this, it was so important for me to sort of like rise up and help people. I felt like I had such a great foundation for my own internal safety that, okay, like it's time. And then I started interviewing colleagues. I made like a free Facebook group. I was supporting women there to build their resilience, to work through like the stress of what was going on. And then I was asked to host a TV show. And had you asked me 3 months prior, I would have said, absolutely not. I have zero interest in that because my belief was that I was someone who was introverted. Even as a child, from like an early age, I remember like, in the class, I would never really raise my hand, even though I knew the answer. I would just sit in the background, not speak unless spoken to. So I was very, very shy. And so for me to like show up on camera or even do something like this today, that was like such a big deal and felt like impossible. I remember doing, oral presentations in school and like losing my voice because my throat dried out so much because I was so nervous. It was such a struggle for me for a long time. So who I was before that was not someone who is on camera, on video, or using my voice in this way. So then I like kind of pushed through those like fears and self-doubts that I had at the time, because I felt called to this greater mission. I need to help people. This is an important time. So I said yes to the TV show. I coached a lot of other people who joined me as guests on the TV show through their own fears around visibility at the time. So they're used to usually working behind the scenes or one-on-one scenarios and not really putting their messaging out there. They just quietly do their work. And then I did that for a couple seasons, and the subject matter, because it was such a limited concept, it kind of ran out. And then the world started getting back to normal. There wasn't this need for me to be out there in the same way anymore that it was like a couple of years prior. And I just kind of like crashed. So I call it the push crash cycle, where you're just like, again, I did it from a motivation of like pushing through fear. I have to be here. I'm going to show up in this way. But I didn't have the unconscious foundations within me to really contain that within my nervous system to put myself out there. So it felt like I was on a bit of a treadmill during that time, and I just wasn't really ready for it long term. So I sort of receded for years. And then this past April, I went to the most amazing retreat with friends in healthcare in Costa Rica. And it was such a nourishing time. And honestly, I had the most incredible breakthrough during a breathwork session to realize that I could sort of put to rest that previous hustle version of myself that got me to the point that it has now. I worked so hard. And again, there was a lot of pushing through when I didn't have the foundations.
Yeah.
And I had this kind of spiritual experience and encounter with the wise version of myself, the wise woman, as I like to call her. And it was such a profound breakthrough for me.
Yeah.
And and then it came to me, this whole concept. I'd already been thinking about the visibility piece and like, how do I work through that with NLP? How do I support others and myself? So yeah, the wise visibility process came out of my own crash, my own burnout that happened from pushing through. And I had a lot of things on my plate at that time. I was very ambitious. So yeah, and now I've been doing a more like conscious reemergence with solid foundations, and being here today with you, that's a part of it.
Well, thank you so much. You said being invisible. I think that's a significant issue. And when you feel invisible, I think it's very damaging. I think it has consequences. My passion for helping people resolve unresolved traumas. Mm-hmm. And in your work with these women who they're in this push crash cycle, or they feel invisible, would you say some, almost, have unresolved traumas, big T, small t traumas in their past?
Yeah, oftentimes that surfaces, or there were significant emotional events that they had experienced. They're usually earlier life moments that contributed to why they feel the way that they do. And for some people, even, it was like, a few months prior when this like interview went horribly wrong. And then ever since then, I've been afraid to get back on camera, so there's often something that was a negative experience that's really imprinted on their nervous system. And then they made a decision from that point on that this is not safe, that being visible or being seen means danger. Being visible means I might receive criticism. Or even, a lot of times people have the fear of what could happen if they become successful. I think that's important to speak to. So
I think that's an unstated fear, and it's real fear of success.
Right. So if I'm kind of rise up or I stand out, which you can think about from an evolutionary standpoint, like we're social beings meant to be in connection, etc. But then there's a fear of losing connection, right? Then these people might reject me, or I might be abandoned or not fit in anymore. So that sense of belonging is so important to us as humans. And I think it can really drive a fear around visibility with that too.
Yeah. Wow, that's so huge. So when people work with you, when a woman goes through your Wise Visibility or your RISE program, she does 12 weeks in the RISE program, what's the benefit? How does her life look different to her at the end of 12 weeks or coming through the Wise Visibility?
Yeah. So we can talk about them kind of together, separate, but the deeper pattern is that, they're stopping second guessing themselves before making decisions. And again, if it's around visibility, they're stop comparing themselves to others or waiting for perfect conditions, or like, I need yet another credential to do this, asking themselves, who am I to step up in that way? And they stop the retreating after every vulnerable share. There's a term I've heard before called a vulnerability hangover, where again, people didn't feel comfortable or grounded in their nervous system or embodied with that before they shared. And so then it causes a spiral after. So instead, they start to then trust their own voice, enjoy the creative process again, just for the sake of like creativity, building genuine connections, because even though oftentimes the challenges that women are coming to me for tend to be like career oriented, there's ripple effects in all relationships. Sustaining momentum without force. You don't have to like push yourself all the time or get up that energy or have the angst before. And then believing in themselves and their capabilities. So those are some of the changes that clients have experienced. And, I can share a little bit more if you're looking for kind of like specific client outcomes.
Well, I am, and I'm interested though in my work and my passion for personal development. If my relationships don't get enhanced, then I could become some manifestation of me that I really like. But if my relationships don't at least stay the same or improve, then I don't think the growth was worthwhile. Right?
Yeah.
So even if I embark on a fitness routine, what is the benefit to the people in my life that I'm more fit? Not just to me. And so you mentioned, they become more confident, they can express themselves better. And then you mentioned relationships. So when people work with you and they come out, do they ever come back to you and give you specific examples of how they got unexpected gains, especially in the relationships in their life?
All the time. Again, it might not be like their primary presenting problem of like why they're here to see me. But I've had people have told me that their marriage has been saved. I've had others tell me that, that we're in the space of separation to like finally move forward with finalizing the divorce and moving on with their lives.
Wow.
Other people tell me that it reconnected them with their children in a new way. Because the thing about relationships is it's between two or more people, and you're part of that dynamic. So if you're shifting and changing, oftentimes the way the others in the relationship are responding to you is different too. So like I said, the positive ripple effects.
Yeah. The one thing we've noticed, and I specifically have worked around, is, understanding spiral dynamics, which I know you do. If I'm a value level 4 systems person, and I marry somebody who's a value level 4 systems person, then in our relationship, she evolves and becomes a value level 5. And we know that odds and even numbers have a modicum of disrespect for each other, right? That can cause some tension. And so coaching those variabilities. So you work with high performing, fairly driven women. You're teaching them to work in a more natural, effective, soul-led way. So they're more effective. But if they do an evolutionary jump and their partner doesn't, have you ever run into those sort of transitions?
So far, no, but it doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. And I think that there's also I think there's a lot of room for compassion and knowing that people move at their own pace. And
Yeah.
let's say if you're in a committed long-term relationship, then there's options there. There's, you could wait it out, see what shifts, especially if you've made quite a bit of change. We can't necessarily expect partners to be on the exact same evolutionary path. So I think that's important to keep in mind. And like I said, so far I haven't come across it with clients. I don't think it means that I won't, because that type of conflict does come up. And again, it's happened where more in the sense that maybe people are now in conflict with their chosen career path and they're looking for a transformation, a transition to some different career path. And that can be part of what's driving some of the underlying issues as well. So again, that can present some conflict there, and there's ways of coaching through that.
Yeah, I can think of a specific example, several actually, but one in particular where the couple had evolved to the point where the woman had been a high VL4 academic in the university setting, a classic VL4.
Mm-hmm.
And then through life, she moved through 5 seamlessly and got to the conclusion of VL5, which is maximizing your success. So she had all the resources she needed to do whatever she wanted, time and money, which is the transition point. And then fully embrace 6, which is, again, self-sacrifice to the community, the greater community. He didn't. He was a super successful 5 when they met, like super successful, aggressive, who his body armor was value level 3, win at all cost.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, a guy. And so now there's this conflict, this challenge, this dynamic that's going on. When I explained value level systems to her, it was such a relief because they were now battling her as a value level 6 wanting consensus.
Yes.
And him battling as a 5 with 3 thinking, wanting to go to war and fight and win. And as soon as I explained spiral dynamics to her, she didn't have to criticize his aggression. She said, okay, that's characteristic of that neurology. I can embrace it because we're in this position in our life because of that. Yes. And now I can fully embrace my 6, self-sacrifice to the greater world. And it was illuminating. Otherwise, they were just going to do this for however long.
Oh, for sure. And I feel like when I learned spiral dynamics, it was such a breakthrough in my thinking. And because it's not intended as a hierarchy, no level is better than the other, but it's more about the context that you find yourself in. And are those particular beliefs appropriate for that context? Is that value levels appropriate for the context? That's where I think it can invite a lot of compassion. But for me, that just gave me such a clear lens to look at the micro, macro aspects of relationships, societies, individuals. That was absolutely fascinating to me and is relevant for sure in the type of coaching work that I do.
Well, and it's interesting, if I could be so bold and do an analysis of Tara.
Oh, okay.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, so when I met you, you were certainly a value level 4 person. You were part of the naturopathic college, which is a highly regulated, highly systematic view of the world. Mm-hmm. And then your neurology started shifting and you started looking for things and you came up with things that are holding you back, like your visibility and other things.
Yeah.
And so you came into the NLP world. Well, NLP is in and of itself is a value level 4 activity. It's a highly rigorous system.
Right.
And if you're a real ardent student of the Tad James School of NLP, it's very systematized. We have funnels, we go prac, master prac, trainers, some higher calling. But some of us in the field create our own things. Mm-hmm. So I created PACE with Tara, and now I'm building an online app for traumatized people. These are entrepreneurial. They're not systematized. I'm outside the system now. I'm bucking the system.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's kind of funny. Coaches think they're entrepreneurs, but most of them aren't. Most of them subscribe to a coaching system. They're part of the system. They're in the funnel system, this system, whatever. So they're actually VL4s, but they want to be paid on merit. So a good coach wants to be paid a lot. Then there are entrepreneurial coaches like you who has created Rise and Wise Visibility, your own programs to help people affect the change they want. And now you're maximizing their success. And by virtue of that, you're maximizing your success, which is embracing VL5's thinking. And I know you and we've had conversations, that you're still wrestling because you don't even have a foot back there anymore, but you still have a toe back in your VL4 systems.
Oh yeah.
But you're radically going, you don't teach NLP.
Right.
You teach WISE, and you teach WISE visibility and RISE. So those are hallmarks of entrepreneurial thinking. And I know your husband well, and he was a school teacher. I mean, there's classic VL4.
Yeah.
Right. And his migration and you two together have really demonstrated what it's like to move as a couple through these changes, through these transformations successfully. So kudos to you guys. How was that for analysis? Did I do okay?
Thank you. Yeah, you did pretty well. The one thing that I would add there too is that the VL6 is something that maybe I haven't put out there in like a lot of ways yet, but there are some like sort of tendencies that I have in that direction, in terms of just, those levels. The spirituality piece is something that's opened up in importance for me. It's something that is acknowledged sort of in my programs. We work on it. But yeah, that's another little piece to add there too. But your analysis was like pretty spot on. And I'm so grateful too that my husband, like we've successfully navigated moving through those levels together, because I could imagine how that would be challenging if we weren't on the same page. And we've made some really big changes in our lives in the last several years, and it's been a super fun journey.
Yeah, that's incredible. So I want to give you a moment to share your call to action. If a woman's listening to this, and there will be women, we're live on 3 platforms right now: Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. But we post this complete interview so people will watch it in the evenings. So if a woman watches this, what message do you want her to take away? What call to action do you want her to have?
So I'd like her to know that, if you're listening right now and this is resonating with you, it feels like some of the challenges that I've shared, that my clients experience, that I've experienced, are true for you as well. If you've been sort of hiding in the background, doing the push crash cycle, and maybe you're just tired of choosing between visibility and your own well-being, that you're not broken. Your nervous system is working exactly how it's intended to work, which is to keep you safe. So again, the problem isn't you, but if, you equate visibility with danger, that what we really need to do is to fix the problem that no one has taught you how to build subconscious safety within your own system and have the nervous system capacity and the identity that really helps you expand into that visibility that you really want on a conscious level. And it's like you're trying to sort of like force a plant to grow, will it to grow, but it's not in the best soil. But what if instead you just enrich the soil, and then the plant could grow and thrive and bloom? So visibility doesn't have to feel forced. It is something that can be natural. The motivation for it can be sustainable, even joyful. You can have fun with it. You can laugh, like we've done today too. So I'm opening enrollment soon for WISE Visibility, which will be like a founders member program. That'll be 5 weeks. So if that's something that is calling to you, and you want to do the subconscious reprogramming, the nervous system work, the identity shifting as well, then you can go to my website, taraguzzo.com, and join my email list. I have a free gift there, which is the Wise Woman Activation. It's an audio that really invites you into a similar experience like I had in Costa Rica, to have an encounter with your inner wise woman, so that you can receive a message and really hear that wisdom that you already have within you.
That's so beautiful. So that everybody knows, all of Tara's contact information are in the notes below, and they're on the bottom of the screen right now. So thank you for that. And I encourage any woman that's listening, at a minimum, book a consultation with Tara. It'll be eye-opening, spirit uplifting, and worth your 30 minutes 1,000 times over. So book that free consult with Tara, have the conversation. We're going to open up questions. We're going to take some questions here, Tara, if that's okay. We'll just see what comes up.
Sure thing.
Sprinkles of wisdom. I love it. Tips to silence perfectionism, please.
Ooh,
wow.
Yeah. That's a good one.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah, no kidding. We could talk about this for a long time because perfectionism is really very much a limitation that we have maybe had placed on us from society, from our past upbringing, etc. But I think it's important to actually like acknowledge it for what it is, to really see it for what it is. Silencing it may not be helpful. So just to reframe that, again, you want to like acknowledge and see what's there, because if we push something down, if we try to quiet it, if we try to suppress, it's only going to be something that then ends up controlling you because you're in resistance to it. So I would say that you might want to encounter that head on. And again, coaching can be a great way to sort of explore that. Like, where is that coming from? What are the behaviors around that? What type of context is that happening in? So that then you can make a shift that is not just like a couple quick tips, but actually sustainable and long-term.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. I heard one time that business people spend 20, 30% of their time doing the activities that produce 80, 90% of their results. Artists spend 95% of the time getting the last 5% of the art perfect, right? So I've had to adopt in my own life, because you know me well enough that I like everything the way I want it. I have to ask myself, am I doing art or business in this moment?
Yeah.
And there's some things in our life we should be artists of. If you're setting a table for dinner guests and you want to be artistic about it, spend the time. But if you're writing a briefing for your boss and your boss is content oriented, don't spend any time formatting it.
Yeah, totally.
Do the 10% that gets you the 90% results and move. So that's brilliant. Thank you.
Can I just add
something in the chat? Oh, here we go.
I just want to add one other thing, Allen, to that based on what you said. Please. Is oftentimes I'll challenge clients to think about what 70% done would look like. Wow. Just to give them like a new metric. And again, like you said, there's certain areas where maybe you don't want to skimp out on that 30%, but there are other areas where it's like, really, could that just be done? Like, so something to consider.
You and I should do a research paper. We should do a research paper, Tara. The people who are perfectionists, what mark in school did they accept? I wonder, did they graduate with a 78 and 88, or did they have to have a 99.9? I wonder.
Yeah, that's, I think, a really interesting one.
There you go.
Oh, I see.
What daily habits helps quiet self-doubt?
Yeah, that's a good question. In terms of daily habits that quiet self-doubt, again, I think whenever there's something coming up, like an experience that it should be first like acknowledged, we want to look at that to really understand and just ask ourselves, like, what is this self-doubt needing right now? As an example, just really question ourselves, go inside, be introspective. So giving yourself the space. Maybe that's to journal, maybe it's to meditate, maybe it's prayer, whatever it is, but some type of giving space to that, again, rather than doing something like trying to quiet, because that sounds, again, like we want to maybe suppress or deny or not really look at the roots of that. And it is important to get to the roots if we want a concern resolved. Yeah.
I often hear people, especially in like my ex-military community, and they say, if I can't, I must, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what they don't tell you is that only works for a certain percentage of the continuum of human beings. So I think your message is so on the spot that, we just can't suppress these thoughts. We have to acknowledge them, address them, and look for the meaning in them. I think that's brilliant. Connect Digital. Why do so many high achievers still doubt themselves? And they love the conversation. Heart goes out to Tara.
Yeah, that's a good one, because it's true. And I think when you look at it, some of the research around imposter syndrome, there's all sorts of potential reasons. But honestly, once I've done the deeper digging and sessions and coaching sessions, what it tends to come back to is some type of core belief about identity around something that sounds like, I am not good enough, I am not capable. So it usually tends to be that, some of the high achieving can be a response to that. Okay, yeah. I'm not good enough, therefore I'm going to do more and do more and do more, and I'll get more and more credentials, more and more achievements. I'll just make more and more money. But it's not really getting to, again, the heart of the issue. And probably what you're hearing is that getting to the root matters so much to me. It's a huge part of why I chose the career path that I did as a naturopathic doctor. And like with my coaching work that I do too, I really want to get to the bottom of things. And I think that's important, instead of just glossing over with just like quick solutions that are just patch it up for now. And not to say that those quick solutions can't be helpful at times. Like sometimes we might be limited in different ways, and that's the best choice. But again, if we want to have a more permanent solution, then I think it's important to go deeper.
Yeah, well done, well said. All right, then we'll make this our last one. Oh, this is from Neil. What's your message to women who feel not enough? It's another seminar.
I would say that it's not something that you're to blame for if that's how you feel, or if you have that belief. It's often come from expectations, maybe of like some type of caregiver or figure, important figure in our past, where these were expectations that were like unmet or whatever the case may be. But also to know that if you are aware that that's how you're feeling, you do now have a choice. You can decide that, okay, I'm going to be responsible now for making a change. Responsible being I'm able to respond. So if we have that level of self-awareness, then we can make that change. And this is the thing too about a lot of my clients that I work with, is that they've done the self-help books and the podcasts and the courses and the programs, and sometimes maybe even therapy. But they come out with so much self-awareness, and I think that's amazing. But oftentimes they have the same patterns that they've had for the last like 25 years. Or maybe even longer, but it's just showing up more in their adult life and they haven't really resolved it. So again, there is that choice point where if you now have that awareness, you can act on it and actually make a change through coaching at the unconscious level, so that you're upgrading your system, that 95% that is lurking under the surface, because consciously you want that change, but it's the unconscious level where we make those behavioral changes.
I think that's such a brilliant interpretation. My personal experience has been that I often said that I'm an interventionist. I intervene on somebody's trauma.
Yeah.
Coaches like you are transformationalists. So, and what I mean by that is that you and I both know we can make change in the unconscious mind fast, fast, fast.
Yes.
But then for the person to actually affect the change, they have to practice it through discipline. And that's why I think your program, your RISE program, 12 weeks is so beautiful. 12 weeks, 77 days. It's, you're going to affect a massive amount of change in those first 2 weeks. You're going to get into limiting beliefs, traumas, SEEs, the other things. But then you have 12 weeks meeting them every week to build on that and create new habits. You're literally accountability coaching tool. So I think that's brilliant. I think that segues right into that last question. So here's the question I always like to ask, and catch you right off guard right here at the interview as we bring it to a close. So if I went out and I interviewed 10 of your clients, right? I interviewed 10 of your clients, you've worked with them, they're living their new best life. What do you want them to say about you?
About me? About
you. What message do you want them to say about you having worked with them?
I'd hope they would say that I held space for them, that I was compassionate and caring and really willing to look at things that sometimes maybe others weren't, to hold them to account, and really to support them to their highest potential so that they feel seen and heard and cared for. Because I think one of the hardest things for people to live with, in my experience, is regret. And oftentimes people feel like they have the potential to like be more, do more, show up more for the relationships in their lives that matter. And honestly, I just think it's one of the most painful things to live with regret. And if someone has the opportunity to show up in the way that they want to find their power again, to develop that success on a soul level, to be an example to others in the world, I think that's a pretty high level of achievement as far as my coaching.
That's absolutely beautiful. And with that, we'll put a bow on it. We'll call it a wrap. Thank you so much, Tara, for joining us today. You can reach Tara. All her contact information's on the bottom of the screen right here. It's also in the show notes. So please, 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 as I said before, if you're a woman and you're dealing with any of the issues, and all of you are, that Tara mentioned today, reach out, book a consultation with her. Thanks again, Tara. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Allen.
All right. Cheers.